Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book Good to Great. So here's a question for you. Why do some companies make that incredible leap from just being, well, good to becoming truly great? That's the huge question at the heart of this landmark book. It really digs into why most companies just kind of flatline and what separates the very few that become legendary.
And the book kicks off with this really provocative idea. Good is the enemy of great. What author Jim Collins is saying here is that the biggest thing holding you back from real excellence isn't failing. Nope, it's being comfortably successful. Just being good enough totally kills that hunger, that drive you need to push for something amazing.
So if that's the case, how do you figure out the secret sauce? Well, Collins and his team went on this massive 5-year research project. They combed through more than 1,400 companies just to find 11, only 11, that made this sustained leap, crushing the stock market by at least 3 times over 15 years. They were basically on a hunt for the blueprint to greatness.
And in this explainer, we're going to walk right through that blueprint. We'll start with the crew, getting the right people in place. Then we'll look at the map, how you actually chart your course. After that, we'll fire up the engine and see how to build unstoppable momentum. And finally, we're going to get to the verdict and ask, hey, does this formula for greatness still work today?
Okay, so where does this whole journey from good to great actually begin? Well, it all starts with the crew, and more specifically, with the person in charge. But as you're about to see, it's probably not the kind of flashy leadership you're picturing.
What Collins found was that every single one of these great companies had what he calls a level 5 leader at the helm. And the whole concept is built on this really interesting paradox. These are not your typical celebrity CEOs you see all over the news. Instead, they're this powerful mix of two things that seem like they shouldn't go together.
See, on one hand, you've got this deep personal humility. These leaders are incredibly ambitious, but it's all for the company's success, not for their own ego. They're often described as quiet, reserved. But, and this is a big but, on the other hand, they have this ferocious, intense professional will. They are absolutely relentless when it comes to getting the best long-term results, no matter how tough the decisions are.
And this whole mindset is captured perfectly by the window and the mirror analogy. When things are going great, these level 5 leaders look out the window to give credit to their team, to other people, or even just to good luck. But when things go south, they look straight in the mirror. They take full responsibility, and they never, ever blame other people or bad luck.
So, you've got this level 5 leader in charge. What's the very first move? It's not what you think. It's not about coming up with some brilliant, visionary strategy. No, it's all about focusing on the who before you even think about the what. The idea is simple. Get the right people on your team first, and then figure out where you're all going together.
The book uses this now famous bus analogy to explain it. First, you put all your energy into getting the right, self-motivated people on the bus. And just as critical, you got to be ruthless about getting the wrong people off the bus. Then, you make sure everyone you have is in the right seat, the role that perfectly matches their strengths. It's only after you've done all of that, then you figure out where you're going to drive this thing.
Okay, so you've got the right people in the right seats on the bus. Fantastic. Now it's time to pull out the map. This next part is all about facing reality head-on and figuring out your unique path to greatness.
This concept is named after Admiral Jim Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He noticed something really interesting. The pure optimists, the guys who kept saying, "Oh, we'll be out by Christmas," they were the ones who ended up dying of a broken heart. The ones who survived, they were the ones who balanced this absolute faith that they would get out eventually with the discipline to face the harsh, brutal facts of their daily life. Great companies do the exact same thing. They never ever sugarcoat the truth.
So after looking those brutal facts right in the eye, the great companies resist that temptation to try and do a million different things. Instead, they simplify everything down. They focus on finding one single, powerful idea to organize around, and the book calls this their Hedgehog Concept.
So what is this Hedgehog Concept? Well, it's found at the intersection of 3 key circles. First, what are you deeply, truly passionate about? Second, and you've got to be brutally honest here, what can your company be the absolute best in the world at? And third, what actually drives your economic engine? That sweet spot, right in the middle, where all 3 of those overlap, that's it. That's your hedgehog.
All right, now we get to the fun part, the action. You've got the right people, you've got a crystal clear focus. The last piece of the puzzle is all about building unstoppable momentum.
Now, this isn't about some rigid top-down dictatorship, not at all. Because you started with disciplined people and you developed disciplined thought with your Hedgehog concept, you can now build a culture of disciplined action. This creates a framework where people have freedom and responsibility, all pulling in the same direction. And technology? It plays a role here, for sure, but not as the creator of momentum. It's an accelerator for the momentum you're already building.
And this all leads to the book's most powerful metaphor, the flywheel. See, the transformation from good to great doesn't happen in some big, dramatic moment. It's like pushing a giant, heavy flywheel. On the flip side, you have the good companies, and they're often stuck in what's called the doom loop, just jumping from one fad to the next, killing any momentum they might have had.
At first, it takes this huge, heroic effort just to get that flywheel to move even 1 inch. It feels impossibly slow, and you can barely see any results. But you just keep pushing, consistently, always in the same direction. And every single push builds on the one before it until the wheel finally makes its first full turn. And you keep pushing, and the momentum starts to build on itself. The wheel spins faster and faster until finally you hit it. Breakthrough. From the outside, it looks like this shocking overnight success. But on the inside, you know the truth. You know it was a result of that long, slow, disciplined process of just pushing. But that brings us to a really important question. This book came out back in 2001. So now, over 2 decades later, how do its ideas and its star companies actually hold up? And this is a totally fair critique, right? Some of the big companies celebrated in the book, like Circuit City, they didn't just stumble. They collapsed in a pretty spectacular way. And others, like Fannie Mae, they faced massive, massive crises. So does that mean the whole formula is just wrong? Or did they just stop doing the things that made them great? Did they stop pushing their flywheel?
And what about the whole leadership thing? I mean, in today's world that's so obsessed with these loud, high-profile, main character CEOs, is there even room anymore for that quiet, humble, yet super determined level 5 leader? Is that kind of humility even a thing we value now?
But look, at the end of the day, whether you're running a massive company or just trying to manage your own life and career, the ideas in this book are still so powerful. Greatness isn't some lightning strike. It doesn't come from one big breakthrough moment. It comes from consistent, disciplined effort, day in and day out. So I guess the real question the book leaves us with is this. What's your personal flywheel? What are those consistent pushes you're making every single day to build your own momentum toward whatever you define as great? Thanks for joining us today, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.